Since the trade that shook the NBA, and we have live reports on both teams involved in this mega deal. But make no mistake, the bizarre day wasn't done when Woj dropped the news. Our analysts react to how Durant handled the trading of Harden. I mean, hashtag stay petty. Oh, and by the way, the Nets, they actually still had a game to lose for the 10th straight time last night. No one is sleeping in Brooklyn. So the last day, it's been a little bit of a whirlwind for the league, and the Nets in particular. Big trade. Bad loss. So we're going to process all of that here with our analysts, Zach Lowe, Kendrick, Perkins, and Richard Jefferson. We also have Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson joining the show, gentlemen. But first, I want to go to our boots on the ground in Philadelphia, welcoming in Sixers reporter Tim Bontemps, who already is at the Wells Fargo Center ahead of Philly's first game tonight since the blockbuster trade. So, Tim, when will James Harden join the team?
Well, Malika, it is not going to be this weekend. The Sixers are not going to have James Harden for the next couple of days. He's going to get to Philadelphia sometime this weekend, get familiarized with the team in the city, and also get looked over by the team's medical staff. Remember, he's been out for the past week with hamstring tightness, so they need to check and make sure he's going to be okay with that. And that means that the first game that he has a chance to play is potentially going to be next Tuesday, which happens to be against the Boston Celtics here at the Wells Fargo Center. And after that, the Sixers play in Milwaukee going into the All-Star break. So if Harden is able to come back next week, those are a couple pretty big marquee matchups to get an immediate look at how he and Joel Embiid are going to look together on the court. Okay, so it's going to be a couple of games before we see James Harden. You're also covering the Nets, though. They're currently on a road trip facing Miami tomorrow night. And general manager Sean Marks, he spoke for the first time today since trading James Harden for Ben Simmons. So did he pull back the curtain at all on what went down there? Yeah, Malika, Sean Marks talked for about 15 minutes with the media today, going through what happened with James Harden, what led up to him getting traded, and where the Nets go from here. Take a listen.
Don't make no bones about it. We went all in on getting James Harden and inviting him into the group. And these decisions to move on from a player like that, of that caliber, are never easy ones. So, I just want to be clear that this is not something that you think, great, let's just make a split decision and move on from that. I think I give James a lot of credit for having open dialogue, open discussions with me and with the group, Steve and Josiah and everybody, over the last, 24, 48 hours. If we realize like this is not going to work, short term or long term, then it's time to sort of say for both parties involved, this is better off.
When you look at this situation going forward for the Nets, the two things I asked Sean Marks about were what caused James Harden to decide this was time for him to leave the Nets, and whether Kyrie Irving's vaccine stance was part of the reason that led to James Harden deciding it was time for him to leave the Nets and have that fresh start both sides need, according to Sean Marks. While Sean Marks wouldn't get into specifics on what led to James Harden deciding to leave, he did say that the person that's most frustrated over the fact that the Nets have only had 16 games with their big three together on the court before having to trade James Harden is Kyrie Irving himself, saying that Kyrie Irving is still hoping for a change in the New York City vaccine mandate, which would allow him to play in home games. This also does leave out the fact, as Kyrie has done in the past, that if Kyrie got the vaccine himself, he would be able to play in these home games. But Kyrie has consistently said that's not going to happen. And as far as Sean Marks said today, it does not seem like the Nets expect that to happen either. So now they move forward without James Harden, who is going to be here in Philadelphia soon. And the Nets have to wait and see when they're going to get Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, and Kevin Durant all on the court together.
Absolutely, and it is interesting. Like you said, I understand from an injury perspective where that frustration comes in, but what is that saying? Control what you can control. There's a controllable here if Kyrie is the most frustrated member of the Nets. Tim Bontemps, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. All right, so before we break down what these teams actually look like on the court now that all these trades have gone down, Richard, do you remember what you were saying to me yesterday about being petty?
Yeah, if you stay petty, you ain't got to get petty.
All right. If you stay petty, you ain't got to get petty. Well, Kevin Durant, he made your motto proud.
That's my guy.
Last night with our friends on the Inside the NBA. Take a listen.
I'm going to need some size for sure. I'm going to need some size and some defense in the interior. Especially with Giannis and LeBron James playing such great basketball this year. I need somebody to offset that, so I'm going to go with Rudy Gobert.
I agree. That worked out nicely for you. Worked out nicely.
So my favorite part of that whole thing, though, is when LeBron James says, wait, but is James Harden healthy? And Chuck says, well, he got traded. He's healthy now. But there you have it. He's the last pick in the All-Star draft. And Kendrick, you played with KD, and for that matter, you played with James Harden. Is that what you would have done?
No, because I'm not petty. I'm not petty.
Damn lie.
No, that's the truth. I wouldn't have done that. I would have picked the best player available, and that was James Harden at the time. But you know, KD is petty. He's something like you, RJ. I mean, it's okay.
I'm not petty. Look, I'm sarcastic.
Listen, the first step of, you know, a graduation of anything is admitting that, you know, you have a problem. And I'm glad that you admit it.
I don't have a problem. Other people have a problem with it. That is the difference, Zach.
Okay.
Get it together.
Can I just point out? I don't want to talk about their problems.
Go ahead.
Can I just point out? LeBron didn't take him either until he had to. So maybe he's being petty too. I don't know.
Bron was being petty. Bron was going to wait till the last moment till the decision had to be made, and he was hoping it was going to fall.
And look, the way that these guys, Rudy Gobert's the last pick every year. So if they really went out of their way to pick James Harden last, if Rudy Gobert went above him, they always disrespect the Jazz.
The moral of the story is always have something you can cover your facial expressions with, like LeBron had the clipboard. All right. In all seriousness, though, Kyrie, KD, James Harden, that experiment, it only lasted 16 total games. And just for some interesting context here, Antonio Brown and Tom Brady, they only played 19 games together. So now that it's all shaken out, the trades have been made, where do these trades put these two teams in the Eastern Conference, Zach?
Right near the top. I still would put Milwaukee as the favorite in the East because although they got shellacked last night by the Suns, who, by the way, we're going to visit with them, they just keep on rolling. But I'd still put Milwaukee up because of the continuity and what they've done with their three stars. But Philly is right behind them, and then Brooklyn, Miami right behind them. But any of those four teams, I want to be clear about this, any of those four could win the conference.
I think that Zach is telling the truth. That's what I think. No, all kidding aside, when you look at this Philly team, when you look at the Brooklyn team, the reason why Milwaukee is the team, and I would even, obviously Miami is in that mix. I think that it's because they're pushing in the same direction. And I still will say that Philly has less answers or less questions about them than Brooklyn. And so that I look at. That part of, like, Sean is my guy. Obviously, I'm very close to the Nets organization. To say that Kyrie is the most frustrated person in the organization for not being in play, I just feel like that is a very president GM type answer. Kevin Durant should be the most frustrated because he has been playing the best of the three. He has been the most available of the three. So if anybody, and we all know that this starts and stops with Kevin Durant. That was the key person. He is the first person to sign this summer. So I think Kevin Durant deserves to be the most frustrated.
Well, I think when you look at the Miami Heat, you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, and you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, you can't go wrong. But I think we might not need to put the Brooklyn Nets in that conversation. I mean, they are on a 10-game losing streak. They are in the play-in tournament right now. And we don't know when Kevin Durant is coming back. And Kyrie Irving has showed us that he can't lead a team to wins. And also, we don't know, like, okay, so if they are playing and they at home and they have a home game and KD is not back, Ben Simmons is going to lead the charge. Do we trust him enough? The Eastern Conference is tough right now. You got the Hawks that are surging. So I'm like, right now, I'm looking at it and I'm like, are they going to make the playoffs? Seriously.
Amen to that because, look, the upside is there, but look, why are we, everyone's like, great fit, Ben Simmons, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Why are we assuming Kyrie Irving's like part of the team on a full-time basis or on the team next season? Is there optimism within the Nets that the vaccine mandate in New York will change? Yes, that doesn't mean it will. Ben Simmons, last time we saw Ben Simmons, he was practicing with his iPhone in his pocket. He got kicked out of practice. And is he afraid to shoot free throws still? Is he afraid to get fouled? If that's not resolved, the Nets are in trouble. And to your point, they've lost 10 in a row. They might finish with a worse record than that, like, cute, frisky D'Angelo Russell, Jared Allen team that they busted up to build this team. They were cute and frisky.
They were adorable.
But at risk of not making the playoffs is what Kendrick Perkins was saying. Richard, what do you think of that?
Well, okay, Kevin Durant will come back, but they weren't playing great basketball. They were winning games, but they weren't playing great basketball when Kevin Durant was playing. Don't forget, it took him 51 points to beat a Detroit team on the road, Kevin Durant, that is. And so they still have to get back and start playing better basketball, but it's hard to judge a team that has one of the top 3 players in the world missing from them. Everything is based around him, his strengths, his weaknesses. So without him, it's hard to judge. It used to be easier because you had James and Kyrie. Now it's kind of a crapshoot. But to the point, that's why Brooklyn has the most questions about the top 4 teams that need to be answered.
Here's what Perk's right about. at the bottom line is this. KD's come back. He may be the best player in the league. They're 3 games out of the play-in. They're 3 games out of the top 6. If you're in the play-in, by definition, you are at risk of missing the playoffs. If you can't get into the top 6, you're one bad Durant shooting game away from being done.
Well, but the fact that they have Kevin Durant on their team, that's the reason everyone's saying, well, hold on a minute. Well, wait a second, because it does seem clear to me. It's the Miami Heat, it's the Philadelphia 76ers, it's the Milwaukee Bucks, in no particular order that are at the top. I see you Raptors fans. Yes, I do. I see the fact that they are surging in the East right now. I see the fact that
they are.
I see all of that.
People say Canada, you know they love us.
I mess with Toronto. Like, I love Toronto. I love the Raptors. I love everything about your organization, your build. But just because you are fans doesn't mean you're allowed to be delusional. It does not mean you're allowed to be delusional or get on us. They are not one of
game winning streak.
Yeah, good for them. That's awesome. But there is nobody on this panel that will put them in the top 4 or says that they can make a conference final. Say it.
No, I ain't in it.
Okay, yeah, now you ain't in it.
All right, we're going to go from the top of the East to some of the West, because still ahead on NBA Today, they meet again. It's LeBron versus Steph Saturday on ABC. Can the Lakers, can they turn things around in a big way? Plus, Luka, he put on an absolute in right now from our Adrian Wojnarowski. The Brooklyn Nets, they are trading James Harden to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks, sources tell ESPN. It is happening!
The blockbuster is done. James Harden is headed to the Philadelphia 76ers, and Ben Simmons is going to be a net.
Woo! What a day it was with the Harden-Simmons deal that went down. But I do want to go coast to coast on some other trade deadline deals, starting with the Milwaukee Bucks acquiring Serge Ibaka in a 4-team deal. And Ibaka is averaging just 6.6 points per game. So, Richard, will Ibaka solidify Milwaukee's front court?
I think it gives them help. I think this answers the question of what do they feel like the timetable is on Brook Lopez. So I like Serge Ibaka. They don't need a lot. They just need him on the court.
All right, well, then the Hornets, they traded for Montrezl Harrell to boost their front court scoring, and that was much needed as Charlotte's starting centers have averaged just 7 points per game this season. That's the second fewest in the league. So, Perk, do you now see the Hornets as a team that can advance past the play-in?
I do, especially at Montrezl. They give them that type of tenacity and the inside that they've been lacking, so I actually like that, and they can move past the play-in.
Well, and then with limited future assets, the Lakers, they were one of 8 teams not to make a trade during the final week before the deadline. So the Lakers, they, of course, were limited to being only able to trade 1 future first-round pick. So, Zach, do the Lakers still have enough to make a playoff push here?
A playoff push. They're 4 games under 500. Let's start with win some games in the regular season. If you have LeBron and AD and they're healthy, nobody's going to want to play you. But it's a little premature for that.
It's a little bit premature to talk about the playoffs. I understand that. I get that. All right. I do want to keep the Lakers talk rolling here with our Lakers reporter Dave McMenamin, though. So we're going to bring in Dave now. And Dave, you spoke to General Manager Rob Pelinka shortly after the deadline passed yesterday. What did he say about the Lakers' inaction and how that came to play in LeBron's camp?
Well, Malika, Rob said that he was trying to weigh the short term and the long term for this franchise, and that's ultimately why when the Rockets wanted the Lakers to include a first-round pick, talks fizzled. When there was a 3-team discussion between the Raptors and the Knicks, and a first-round compensation was desired, talks fizzled. But Rob Pelinka also said that ultimately there was alignment between him, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis to not make a move. Now, things get interesting here where I am told from a source familiar with LeBron and Anthony's thinking is that is, quote, totally false. That there was no conversation between Rob Pelinka, LeBron, and Anthony Davis on Thursday. There was no go-ahead of an okay to have inaction at the deadline. And so where things stand right now, that tells me that it's not just problems what you're seeing on the court with the Lakers losing 6 out of 8, but there's problems off the court between an alignment, as Rob Pelinka termed it, and his leaders on this team.
Okay, Dave, so then will the Lakers take advantage of the buyout market?
Well, certainly that is their plan. Now, one of the names that we've heard pop up is Dennis Schroeder. The Lakers had talks with Boston about trying to reacquire their former point guard. It didn't happen. He was traded to Houston. I checked in with a Rockets source today, and he told me as of right now, there is no plans to buy out Dennis Schroeder. So you can't expect that to be the panacea that they add to this group. A couple of names I think you could look at. Certainly Eric Bledsoe, who's traded from the Clippers to the Portland Trailblazers. We'll see if the Blazers have Bledsoe a part of their long-term plans. Bledsoe, a long-time Clutch sports client, and has familiarity with both LeBron and AD, and that's a leg up. And also you could think of DeAndre Bembry, who had a pretty good season for the Nets just because the numbers didn't work in that big deal with Philadelphia. You know, Bembry is on the market right now. He could be the type of guy. They want 3-and-D type guys.
DeAndre Bembry, not to mention Eric Bledsoe. Bledsoe's nickname when he came into the league was Baby Braun. So I guess we'll see. Dave McMenamin, thank you so much. All right. So we just heard Dave talk about the fact that perhaps even though Rob Pelinka said, yes, we are all on the same page here, that LeBron and Anthony Davis, they might not all be on the same page with what they did sort of during all of that. So as we look towards this, the Lakers, we'll see, of course, if they make any moves in the buyout market. But in the meantime, starting tomorrow on ABC, can LeBron still lead this team to win or perhaps go on a run? I want to start with you here, Perk.
Well, one thing it's hard for me to do is doubt LeBron, but the way that this Laker team looked and constructed and how old they look moving-wise, I don't see them making a run in the West. Like, I don't see it. Braun has been playing phenomenal basketball all this season, and they're still losing games. So at this point, like, what do? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't see it. That's just my opinion.
That report from Dave is problematic for the Lakers and for Laker fans. And it does not suggest to me that the morale on this team is very good. It was obviously very bad the other day, and I think everybody on the players were clearly hoping that something would change, just some kind of shakeup to get us out of our doldrums. And their schedule coming up is tough. And, Perk nailed it. Slow. They're so just like, it's sludgy. It takes forever for them to get into anything. Russ is not even that super engaged when LeBron's off the floor and the offense is his to run. He was standing in let Malik Monk the show. It's just a rough watch right now. It's a rough watch. It looks like a team. It looks like they look like a broken team.
Yes, they are a broken team. Not look like. They are a broken team.
I was trying to be nice.
So why? Why? Because the Laker fans don't want you to be nice. They want to be honest.
You know why, though? Because they have LeBron James. That's why.
And I understand, but that's why his offensive numbers being historic. But there's a team that I think is more fun to talk about. Because, look, a lot of things happen, and there's a lot of things inside the NBA community.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Oklahoma City, these players are the biggest winners. There is no camera here. I'm just going to show this to you. They are $24 million below the salary floor. Now, let me express to you the salary floor. That means teams have a max that they can spend, and they have a minimum that they have to spend. Now, the minimum is key because if you don't get there, all of that money has to be spent. So what happens is that you just spread it out throughout your entire team. Look at them celebrating. This is them celebrating. This is them celebrating. This is the crowd celebrating that all of their players are going to get this money. So their 15, 16-man roster, whatever it is, all of this money is going to get spread out through all of them. So you know who didn't want to see made a move outside the Lakers? Oklahoma City Thunder. They were the biggest winners as players. They're going to lose. And if I was any of those players, I'd be like, hey, Sam, we don't need any help. We can lose all by ourselves. Don't bring in anybody else. We don't need any money. They're not trying to win. So you might as well pay these guys for the season they're about to have.
Now, the Thunder can still add salary.
Hey, listen.
They have until July 1st to add some salary.
If I'm Ty Jerome or Darius Bazley and I see Sam Presti on the phone at shoot-around, I am running full speed across that court, tackling him, ripping the phone out of his ear. Who are you calling? Some European free agent? No, we're not interested. That's my money.
Even if it gets to $15 million, even if they spend a little bit, that's $15 million.
No,
that just
nothing.
Has to be but I'm just saying, look, if they're like, hey, we only get to spread out 12 instead of 23, just figure it out.
Oh my goodness! I don't know what to do. You're encouraging some violence.
I would never encourage actual violence. Just take the phone out of his hand.
Okay,
That's all.
still to come on NBA Today. Steph reenacted a classic Michael Jordan move last night, and we've got that must-see video for top time that the Bucks and the Suns have played each other since the Bucks took the championship in Milwaukee. But they were at it last night, so there he is, Devin Booker and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Let's pick this one up in the second quarter, Richard.
Yeah, and this is why they had to go get Serge Ibaka. Look what they're trying to front the big fella with, and this is why DeAndre Ayton might be the most important, not MVP, as we had a segment about it a couple of weeks ago. He might be the most important because, look, there was no guarding him. There was no guarding him, and the way that the Suns tee him up is even more impressive.
Let's go ahead to the third quarter. The Suns are up 13 at this point. Not anymore.
You remember this block? Who remembers this when Giannis got this block? It was one of the key plays in the finals, but here, Ayton goes a little bit higher, a little bit harder, and it was an amazing finish. Here, again, Wesley Matthews. If he starts knocking down this hook shot, he is too little. Go ahead and rock the baby, big fella. Then again, pick and roll. Cam Johnson, that's what he does. When this man starts improving his game, and now you have another player that can run a functional pick and roll, just makes the Suns even more deadly.
Ahead to the fourth quarter because the Suns are 33-0 and leading after the third quarter.
That's it, man. This is when everybody should start leaving the building. If the Suns are leading going into the fourth quarter, get your parking ticket, get out early, get your revenue in, do anything that you need to make sure this is fine, because these guys, they seal games at a rate that we haven't seen many times in the league.
Well, the Suns win it easily. Here's Giannis Antetokounmpo after the game.
Last year is last year. It's over with. Win or lose is over with. We're talking about today. Today they came out, played hard, booked our butt, set the tone, made shots. They were physical. What happened last year is it's over with. They're a totally different team this year. They're bigger. They're playing harder. They have a chip in their shoulder. So if we expect that we're gonna come in and be the same team that we were last year and we're gonna beat them, it's not gonna happen. We gotta be better.
All right, after blowing out the Bucks, Caesars Sportsbook made the Suns co-favorites to win the title, along with the Nets. That's at plus 450. And this is the first time all season that Brooklyn hasn't been the outright favorite to win it all. And the Suns, their title odds were as long as plus 1,600 on Thanksgiving. But we've seen that steadily drop since then. But back here with Zach, Richard, and Perk. And Perk, I want to start with you. Do you buy the Suns as being co-favorites from a betting standpoint?
Not co-favorites. I buy them being the favorites, which they should be. Look, they're the best team in basketball right now. And I get it with Klay coming back and all the Golden State hype. I get it with Giannis and they got their big three intact, even with Philly, Miami, and all that. But they're not playing this style of basketball. And when you look at this depth, it's so deep that even when DeAndre Ayton goes out the game, JaVale McGee picks right back up where he left off. Chris Paul and Devin Booker being the closers in the game. And then you have Mikal Bridges along with Cam Johnson out there doing their thing on the wing position right now. Look, when it comes down to the team that I would pick to be the favorite to win it all, hands down, it's the Phoenix Suns. They feel like they didn't complete the mission, and they're playing like it.
Co-favorites with the Bucks for me, and I think maybe yesterday's trade maybe put them a little above the Bucks because the East got a little harder for Milwaukee. Look, this team is an absolute machine. They do not make mistakes. They make the right play every second that they're on the floor. My only wish for right now is they're now 5 games up on the Warriors. I want them to clinch home court and put Chris Paul in bubble wrap until the second round of the playoffs, because that's my one big fear is a Chris Paul late season or playoff injury, because he is what he's doing at his age, at his position, is absolutely ridiculous. Some of those 19 assists last night were so soft and so gorgeous. Passes that no one his size can throw in the NBA. Just stay healthy, CP.
Zach, they were so what?
Soft and gorgeous.
Soft and gorgeous.
Yeah, that's right, Perk. I'm not backing down from that.
They were supple. Supple is a good word.
Yeah.
Supple passes.
Stop talking.
Okay. Well, I have to do this part now. So the thing that I agree with Zach and Perk is, look, the Phoenix Suns are special. I worry about them like protecting Chris Paul and then dialing back their intensity. I want them to ride this intensity all the way through. And I know that that's hard because you fear of injury, but this Suns team reminds me of the San Antonio Spurs. After they lost to Miami and, the Ray Allen shot, they came back the next year and they destroyed the Miami Heat. And I could see this. There's an intensity about this team that if they were to get into a rematch against the Milwaukee Bucks, this team is different. This team is different than last year's team. And they have carried over that confidence into the regular season. They're rolling everybody. And I think they could carry it over into the postseason, including the finals.
Not to mention adding a little bit of depth yesterday with Torrey Craig to their roster. I mean, this team just keeps on winning. If I were to have to make a bet today, it would be a rematch of the finals from last year. I think co-favorites, not with the Nets, with the Milwaukee Bucks is the way to go. We're going to talk more about the Suns, though, coming up in the show because they exacted some finals revenge last night.
Oh, kids, don't run by the pool, kids. Don't run by the pool, I'm telling you. Don't run by the pool. He took them both out.
What's going to happen if you run by the pool?
You're going to slip and fall. You're going to hurt yourself.
Anything for you, gentlemen, because we've seen this before from the Knicks.
Oh, look at that. Toe tapping them. Oh, look at him.
Let's see him side by side.
Oh, come on. Why are the Knicks always on epic highlights the wrong way?
They actually won the game.
Yeah.
All right, next we have top bucket. We're heading to D.C. where Kyrie makes the impossible just look easy.
Kyrie is. Like, the things that this man can do with his body and ball control is absolutely absurd. He's looking the wrong way. It's a turnaround jumper off the glass, simple.
They just know where you at on the floor. I mean, that's who he is.
That's who he is. And I know they would like to see more of who he is.
Yeah, in other news, they lost again.
And like you said, in other news, they struggled to win that one.
And this is a game they probably should have won considering who was playing on the other side. All right, let's go to top posters because we're going to fly high in the Valley. DeAndre Ayton.
Oh, right back ain't cheating.
What do you think, Big Perk?
Let me get some right back action.
On Giannis?
See, we could do the side by side from the postseason.
Yeah.
That was that. It was the exact same play going right, lob.
Well, and then we have another regular on this segment, Jalen Green.
When your shorts are so short that you can see the tights, you know what I'm saying? Like, that reminds me of that.
Captain Button himself cannot say anything.
No one
about
asked for that
shorts.
analysis.
That's all I'm saying. All right, next we have top career high because we head to Dallas where Luka, he just poured it in last night against the Clippers.
He couldn't wait for Porzingis to get up out of there.
I ain't seen no congratulations. I need to see that Dame CJ.
It wasn't none of that. Look, get him out my way.
Ivica Zubac must see Luka in his nightmares. I mean, enough picking on Ivica Zubac.
It's not just Zubac. It's not just Zubac. It's the Clippers that see Luka in their nightmares.
Luka's next level right now, man.
Whoa.
His conditioning, everything is going through the roof. Dunks, everything.
Here's the thing, Perk. What did you learn from that performance by Luka last night, just hours after you mentioned Porzingis was traded?
I mean, it seemed like he was out there on another level because it was a burden off his shoulders. Let's not hide it. Like, we all heard the rumors that they didn't even speak to one another. They didn't get along. As Richard said, usually when you lose, like, your other half or whatever the case may be, you see a long, lengthy, hey, goodbye, man. It was a pleasure work. We didn't see none of that from both sides.
This is deeper than basketball, brotherhood.
It wasn't none of that.
The Nets did send the thank you tweet to James Harden yesterday. That was nice.
Yeah, it's like, hey, thanks, bro. And look, we get it. But one thing that people need to understand about professional sports is that our money, our success, and for great players, their legacy are dictated by wins. If you're not helping with that, then I have no use for you. Jerry West famously said, winning is the most important thing to me. If that's not what's the most important thing to you, you won't like being around me. Now, that's a paraphrase, but it's something along those lines. And that's the truth. That's why Bron don't care. Bron don't trade anyone. He don't, he waived me. He got rid of you. He'll do anything. Winning is the most important thing. And so for Luka, I actually like to see that if you weren't helping us, I got nothing for you.
Does this open up some different? So Zach's season with the Mavs has just been a roller coaster.
I'm back in.
Where
I'm back
are you
in now.
and why?
No. I think their ceiling for this season is a little bit lower because when Porzingis has played this season, he's been really good. The problem is you always have to preface it by saying when he's played this season, he's always injured. To me, this trade, maybe they'll get something out of Dinwiddie and Bertans. What it really does is it breaks Porzingis' big contract into two smaller ones, and it sets them up to be a little more nimble, moving pieces around Luka in the next couple of seasons. And, they'll probably re-sign Jalen Brunson, or at least try to this offseason. They just extended Finney-Smith. This was just about let's declutter the books a little bit, and a recognition, frankly, that this didn't work.
And I love what Finney-Smith said after that, too, about how his mom has been working all the time at churches, and now he's able to say, hey, Mama, go kick your feet up.
That's the best feeling in the
Great
world.
story.
That's a
How
great
long has
story.
Finney-Smith been in the league? What took so long? He ain't a rookie. This is like year seven.
At least he got it done.
From Boston, that's with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. The Celtics, they're hosting Trae Young and the Hawks. I will be on the sidelines for that one. Our coverage kicks off with NBA Countdown at 1:30 Eastern, 10:30 Pacific on ABC and the ESPN app. And we're about 48 hours away from the Super Bowl. A Bengals fan?